On a school trip, high school senior Peter Parker visits a Columbia University genetics lab where he is bitten by a genetically engineered super spider that escaped containment and feels ill after returning home. Meanwhile, Norman Osborn, owner of scientific corporation Oscorp, tries to land a major military contract. He experiments on himself with an unstable performance-enhancing chemical and goes insane, killing his assistant, filling a glider with a flight suit. The next morning, Peter realizes he no longer needs to use his glasses and his body has become more muscular. At school, he discovers that he can shoot spider webs from his wrists and has accelerated reflexes and an increased ability to sense danger. After Peter beats Flash Thompson, the school bully, in a fight, he figures out that he has acquired the abilities of the spider who bit him and verifies this by climbing up a wall. Having heard about his confrontation with Flash, Peter's uncle Ben tells him that with great power comes great responsibility. Peter disregards this and enters a wrestling tournament to raise money to buy a car, wanting to impress his love interest, Mary Jane Watson. He wins his first match, but the promoter cheats him out of his winnings. When a thief suddenly robs the promoter's office, Peter allows him to escape with the promoter's money in retaliation. Shortly after, he learns that Ben has been killed by a carjacker. Peter pursues and confronts the carjacker and discovers he is the same thief he let escape. After Peter disarms him, the thief falls out of a window to his death. Meanwhile, a crazed Norman Osborn sports advanced Oscorp armor and military equipment and disrupts an experiment by Oscorp's corporate rival, Quest Aerospace, killing several people in the process. The following day, he is shown to have no memory of the event. Upon graduation, Peter begins to use his abilities to fight crime in the city, becoming the masked superhero, Spider-Man. J. Jonah Jameson, editor of the Daily Bugle newspaper, hires Peter as a freelance photographer, as he is the only person who provides clear images of Spider-Man. However, Jameson uses the pictures to discredit Spider-Man, believing he is a menace. Meanwhile, Peter decides to move to an apartment with his best friend and Norman's son, Harry. Norman learns Oscorp's board plans to oust him and sell the company to Quest, and exacts revenge on them as his costumed alter ego at the World Unity Fair. As Spider-Man, Peter intervenes and defeats Norman, who escapes. Jameson later dubs the mysterious villain the Green Goblin. After discovering he has developed a crazed alternate personality, Norman, as the Goblin, offers Peter a place by his side, but Peter refuses. During their confrontation, Peter suffers a cut to his left arm. When Norman, Aunt May, and Mary Jane are invited over for Thanksgiving dinner by Peter and Harry, Norman notices Peter's earlier sustained injury and deduces that Peter is Spider-Man. He later attacks and hospitalizes Aunt May. Meanwhile, Mary Jane admits that she is in love with Spider-Man, who has rescued her twice, and asks Peter if Spider-Man ever asked about her. Harry, who is dating Mary Jane, arrives and presumes that she has feelings for Peter after seeing them hold hands. Devastated, Harry tells his father that Peter loves Mary Jane, inadvertently revealing Spider-Man's greatest weakness to Norman. The Goblin kidnaps Mary Jane and a trolley car full of children hostage along the Queensboro Bridge, forcing Peter to choose who he will save. He manages to rescue both, while civilians nearby side with Spider-Man and taunt the Green Goblin. Enraged, he grabs Peter and takes him to the abandoned smallpox hospital, where he brutally beats him. When the Goblin brags about how he will later kill Mary Jane, an enraged Peter gains the upper hand. Norman reveals himself as the Goblin and begs for forgiveness, while controlling his glider to impale Peter from behind. Warned by his spider sense, Peter dodges the attack and the glider fatally impales Norman, who asks Peter not to reveal his identity as the Goblin to Harry before dying. Peter takes Norman's body to the Osborns' house, where Harry sees him and falsely assumes Spider-Man killed his father, without having time to see that Spider-Man is Peter. At Norman's funeral, Harry vows revenge on Spider-Man, and claims that Peter is the only family he has left. Mary Jane confesses her feelings for Peter, but he rejects her, fearing that if they were in a relationship, his enemies would try to get to him by harming her. As he leaves the funeral, Peter remembers Ben's words and accepts his new responsibility as Spider-Man.